Okay, are you ready? Here we go. Monday.
Good morning to you. This is Kay Adams with you till 12 on BBC Radio Scotland. It is Monday the 24th of February, the third anniversary of the illegal Russian invasion of Ukraine, and a big week in terms of the European response. Prime Minister Keir Starmer restated his intentions at the Scottish Labour Party conference at the weekend.
To stand up for Ukraine, to stand up for Europe, but most of all, to stand up for our security, because Ukraine is vital to us.
Yes, but how to manage Donald Trump? Keir Starmer will fly to Washington to meet him this week, preceded by French President Emmanuel Macron. What should Europe's message be to Trump? 08085 92 95 00 is the number to call. Also coming up this morning, a woman used to standing her ground.
Tell you what I'd do, Ash. I'd go and check out some basic facts about your hero, Obama.
He's not my hero. I'm a communist, you idiot.
Ash Sarkar locking horns with Piers Morgan. She's here to tell us all about her new book. Do we have a responsibility to invest in Gaelic?
And don't worry if you're a total beginner. I learned Gaelic, and if I can do it, so can you.
That's Joy Dunlop, who's going to be teaching us a Gaelic phrase a day. Simon Calder will be with us from somewhere.
Mornings on BBC Radio Scotland.
What's a girl and got to do? It used to be easy to fool around for you, but now you got to disinfect your friends. Yeah, this dating and mating's getting so complicated. Well, how can I kiss you goodnight when I can't touch your lips? Hold you tight when I don't know where you've been. I gotta have a medical plan for making love in the 80s. Can't get next to my baby. Making love in the 80s. Can't get next to my. Yeah. Well, I know what's been written and said. They say I need a rubber suit to get someone in bed. Could I be losing when I'm choosing? It's so confusing. It's a 5-year wait after every day. How can I kiss you goodnight when I can't touch your lips? How can I hold you tight when I don't know where you've been? I gotta have a medical plan for making love in the 80s. Can't get next to my baby. Making love in the 80s. Can't get next to my baby. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, you want it. What could I get? It's just like playing Russian roulette. Dig it.
once, and I jokingly told him that I called him my Uncle Brian as a joke, and I got totally deadpanned. It was the wrong thing to do, and I'll never do it again. Okay. It is 10:10. This is Kay Adams with you till 12 on BBC Radio Scotland. Now, she's been described as one of the boldest and most exciting thinkers of her generation, and now political commentator Ash Sarkar is committing those thoughts to paper, or she already has. She's got a debut book. I've got it in my hand. It is called Minority Rule, and my goodness, if there was ever a time we were in need of insight, it is now. So I am delighted to say that she joins us. Morning, Ash.
Good morning.
Good morning. I've got to ask, I mean, when was the sort of final dot placed on this book? Is it before the American elections or after?
Just before the American elections. So I may, at the last minute have put in a sentence saying, hey, I know this really big thing happened. Be patient. There'll be more about it in the paperback. But as I was writing the book and the American election was looming large, the more research I did, the more it looked like to me Trump winning was something of an inevitability, considering the conditions. And it doesn't feel good to be right about that.
No,
great for my book, but terrible for the world.
But that's interesting. So you came to that because, of course, at the time, and Rory Campbell has had to kind of self-flagellate ever since, hasn't he? Because he thought that Kamala Harris would win. But at the time building up to it, is this based on the kind of analysis of this book, which obviously we're going to go into, that you felt that the runes suggested a Trump win?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just thinking about people I know in my own life, everybody, whether they're left-wing or right-wing, they live in a big city like London or out in the sticks, whether they're old or young, they feel that there is something fundamentally broken about society, and they're right to. So one of my best mates, she had a breakup, which is painful at the best of times. But because she had to take her partner off the tenancy agreement for their flat, the landlord came back and said that's going to be another £300 a month. And that is not an unusual story for people. I think whoever you are, wherever you live, you have felt taken advantage of. You feel that the powers that be are not looking out for you. And in that kind of environment, someone like Trump, who really speaks to people's sense of anger, a sense of distrust in the status quo, he'll do very well. And unfortunately, Kamala Harris was saying, we're not going to be able to make things significantly better for you. But look, the GDP line goes up. Isn't that great?
So, that's interesting. Well, we can talk about what you think the sort of response should be at a political level, but in terms of Minority Rule, Adventures in the Culture War is the subtitle. So what's your analysis here? What are you telling us?
So the reason why I called the book Minority Rule is because I was using the phrase in two ways. The first way is that whenever you turn on the TV, listen to the radio, open a newspaper, there are always these stories that there is some kind of identity minority, might be trans people, or it might be Black Lives Matter, or it might be Just Stop Oil, and they're trying to impose their will on you, tell you how to think, what to say, how to live your life. And it's a way of stoking paranoia and hostility, and in my view, keeping ordinary people divided and angry at each other. Meanwhile, and this is the second way in which I use the phrase minority rule, there is a concentration of wealth and power at the very top of society, which is happening on a scale which is, unprecedented in human history. So you've got these individuals who operate like superpowers, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, and they're the real ones who are responsible for our very real feeling of powerlessness.
So are you suggesting then that there is an organised attempt to sow these seeds of dissent? And if so, on the part of whom?
So I would say that there is a degree of organisation. If you read a right-wing strategist like David Horowitz, he wrote papers about how the right should stoke antagonism on cultural issues. So there are people who think about this very much as a plan. Steve Bannon is another one, very much a plan for him. But then what you've got are organisations and institutions, take the media, for example, who are... In some ways, there are individuals who've got a grand plan, your editors-in-chief and your newspaper owners, but then you've got lots of other people who are just responding to the incentives that exist. So if you are the editor of a current affairs programme like Good Morning Britain, you need your clips to go viral on social media because that's how you draw your audience in. How do you go viral? You stoke a big bun fight about something like pronouns or, you know, should this Fawlty Towers episode be removed? So you've got people acting in concert. Sometimes it's the result of coordination. Sometimes it's just because they're responding to things that are in their shared environment.
So in the light of that, and you know, some people will agree with your analysis, some people won't, but let's stick with it. What's the response? What's the appropriate response?
Well, I think the first thing we all have to do is disengage from the outrage machine. And the book opens by talking about the way in which this plays out on the left, which is we've really absorbed, I think, a sort of hostile, suspicious, untrusting attitude towards each other, which in a way is a very right-wing view of human nature. The left, ultimately, we're the ones who've got to believe that better things are possible. So I think that we've got to try and find ways to connect with one another in real life. Because, you know, when you get off the internet, you realise people aren't so bad. If you were to take your view of human nature based on your interactions on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, you'd probably think that, you know, everyone's a real, I can't think of an Ofcom friendly way of saying this, a real wrong-un.
Yes. Oh, well done, Sam. Well done, Ash. That's a good one. Well, yeah, and I mean, it's, well, I'm loath to kind of pick this example because it's so sensitive and such a tragic situation. Obviously, what happened at Southport, very much in the news again today. But, I mean, clearly, there was some very inflammatory stuff around that. But also, when the people of Southport, the community who were affected, got the chance to actually sort of show themselves, you just saw lovely people who'd been utterly devastated by a tragic event, who were not trying to score points out of it, but were just in grief.
No, absolutely. And one of the things that I thought during those riots were, imagine being a member of one of those grieving families, and not only are you having to deal with the most traumatic kind of loss you can imagine, you're now seeing your community destroyed and on fire and having to make statements and appeal for calm. There's something about that which just seems so devastating and difficult that it defies the imagination. But I think that you make a really important point, which is that a lot of that unrest was stoked on social media. The misinformation spread on social media. There were some very high-profile people who spread that misinformation, including Andrew Tate. And then when all was said and done, those people who wreaked havoc in Southport, they got on the train and went back home. They weren't the people from that community. They weren't the people directly affected by those losses.
We've played a couple of times this morning just to, you know, sort of alert people that you're coming on that clip, infamous clip with you and Piers Morgan, at which you sort of finally, in exasperation, say, "I'm a communist, you idiot." Number one, you miss Piers Morgan, but also, do you describe yourself as a communist?
I mean, so firstly, I do actually interview Piers in the book, because if you want to understand the culture wars, who better to talk to than the king of culture war himself? And I think that readers will find it quite revealing, because you get a sense of how he views his own job in the media space. So, you know, I didn't get a chance to miss Piers Morgan. I'm seeing him all the time for the purposes of this book. And I still do identify as a communist, and I'll tell you why. It's not because I think that the gulags were really great or anything like that. It's because I believe that an equal society, a fair society, is a good society and one that brings out the best in all of us. You know, at the moment, I think the key problem that's impacting all of us negatively is inequality, an unequal society where you've got people who can't afford to wash their kids' clothes, and you've got people who are so rich they could afford to end world hunger several times over. I don't think that makes us good people. I think it makes us limited people.
But what is modern communism? You've gone into a little bit there, but of course, historically, we associate Russia with communism, don't we? And here we have this situation currently ongoing whereby, where is Trump positioning himself versus Putin? How is Ukraine going to be resolved? And for a lot of people, Russia equals communism, which is something that they might have problems with.
Sure. I mean, just to say, modern Russia is not a communist society. It is a gangster capitalist society. What happened after the fall of the Soviet Union was that you had all these guys with little personal armies taking over state infrastructure and selling it to the highest bidder. And that, unfortunately, is a model of gangster capitalism, which you're now seeing in Washington with Elon Musk. That's capitalism on steroids. It's certainly not communism. When it comes to the importance of communist ideas, I mean, I talk about this at the end of the book. Look at what privatization has done to water in England. It's pumped our rivers full of feces. It sent water bills sky high because of the ongoing collapse of Thames Water. Same with energy, same with housing, same with land. Ultimately, what communism means is that instead of this infrastructure, which is essential to our survival, being a vehicle for profit and getting worse just because money is constantly flowing upwards and outwards from it, it's saying it's going to be put to the public use and public benefit. It's not going to be for making money anymore.
What's your own political journey, Ash? I mean, did you grow up in a political household or what?
Yeah, so my grandma came to the UK. She was 17 when she came to the UK, and she was by herself and she had no money. And as she grew up, she became an anti-racist activist. She became a trade unionist. And that was the sort of story for everyone else. So my mum also active in the anti-racist movement. And also because my mum was a single parent until I was 11 when she married my stepdad. I saw firsthand just how difficult it was. And when I was 5, when the Tony Blair government came in, one of the first things that they did was cut benefits to single parents like my mum. And so that's going to make you political because you're seeing up close and personal how these decisions taken in Westminster impact ordinary families.
It's a big thing to be out there in that space, though, at the moment, particularly as a young woman. I mean, how do you deal with that? I mean, I can presume you get a lot of abuse.
Yeah, I mean, the abuse is not great, I can't lie. Just the other day, someone sent me a message saying that I was going to get what the girls in Southport got. And it does make you feel afraid for your safety and a bit jumpy. But I know this is going to sound like such a cliche. I have the best friends in the world. I mean, just honestly, the nicest, funniest, most supportive people you could ever hope to meet in your life. And they make me feel so protected and so held. And I think it's just a reminder that you can do pretty much anything in life if you've got good people around you.
Yeah, well, that's a good one. Well, listen, Ash, it's really a pleasure to speak to you. Ash Sarkar there, and the book is Minority Rule and Adventures in the Culture War, and it is available now. And I think given the timing of it, we can probably expect a sequel, can't we, Ash? Thanks to Donald Trump. You got something to thank him for, haven't you? Ash Sarkar.
Join Michelle McMahon.
We used to start at 7, but now we start at 6:30. More time for Chris to talk to guests and try and be all flirty. So tell your friends and tell your mates there's even more of Chris. More time to talk and have a laugh and also take the mickey. The Chris Moyle Show. We now start at 6:30.
Oh, she knows her music, does Michelle McManus. You can never catch her out. It is 10:24. Kay Adams with you till 12 on BBC Radio Scotland. We're going to be talking about World Gaelic Week.
And don't worry if you're a total beginner. I learned Gaelic, and if I can do it, so can you.
Yes, our very own Joy Dunlop is going to be telling us all about it, and she's going to teach us a Gaelic phrase, I think every day this week, isn't she? Yep. Here on Mornings. And Simon is here very shortly with the travel surgery. Get in touch, any questions for Simon Calder, our travel expert. 08085 92 95 00 is the number, or you can text Simon on 80295. I think we'll speak to him after this.
make a change. No, you're never gonna get it. Not this time. Never gonna get it. My loving. No, you're never gonna get it. Had your chance to make a change. Now you promised me the moon and stars. Save your breath, you won't get very far. Gave you many chances to make change. The only thing you changed was love to hate. It doesn't matter what you do or what you say. She doesn't love you, no way. Maybe next time you give your woman a little respect, so you won't be hearing her say, no way. No, you're never gonna get it. Not this time. Never gonna get it. My loving. No, you're never gonna get it. Had your chance to make a change. No, you're never gonna get it. Not this time. Never gonna get it. My loving. No, you're never gonna get it. Had your chance to make a change. Yes, sir. I give to the needy and not the greedy. That's right. 'Cause you see, baby, when you're lacking, you're losing. And I'm out the door. Doesn't matter what you do or what you say. She don't love you, no way. Maybe next time you give your woman a little respect, so you won't be hearing her say, no way.
And now it's time for a breakdown.
Never gonna get it, 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 never gonna get it. Never gonna get it, 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 never get it. No, you're never gonna get it. Sweet loving. Never gonna get it. Sweet loving. No, you're never gonna get it. My loving. Never gonna get it. My loving. No, you're never gonna get it. Sweet loving. Never gonna get it. My loving. No, you're never gonna get it. Sweet loving. Never gonna get it. My loving. No, you're never.
It's time to check in with our travel expert Simon Calder now, find out where on earth he is ahead of our travel surgery. 08085 92 95 00 is the number to call to speak to Simon and ask him any questions about travel. You can also leave a voice note or a WhatsApp message, and you can text him on 80295, standard messaging rates. Apply. Good morning, Simon.
Good morning, Kay, and I'm just looking out of the window here. There's a Swedish flag fluttering in the breeze. I'm in a Swedish cafe. I'm just considering whether to order a glass of lingonberry juice.
Are you in Leicester Square? IKEA?
Well, not quite. I think yes, I am in a well-known Scandinavian furniture store, but unfortunately the one in Croydon in South London.
Are you?
But you can dream. There we are.
Are you seriously in IKEA Croydon?
I am. It's a long and complicated story involving my wife and my sister, who kind of somehow concocted a Monday morning expedition here. And I said, look, I've got to talk to Kay, and we've reached this accommodation where I've been put in the cafe, and that's where I will stay while all manner of decisions are made on my behalf. Or my credit cards.
Goodness.
There we are. Anyway,
I thought I was winding,
as always.
I thought I was winding you up, but you were winding me up in the end. There you go. So listen, another week, another plane crash, and I don't say that facetiously. This was the event at Toronto airport. Thankfully, that there were no fatalities in that. But we've had a number of aviation incidents, haven't we, over recent weeks? As I say, this one was kind of a good news story, I guess, but still might alarm people.
Well, of course, and anybody who's anxious about flying, and that means a lot of people, will understandably have looked at the image of this Bombardier jet, commuter jet on Delta Airlines coming in from Minneapolis, St. Paul to Toronto. It landed very heavily on the right-hand side. The right wing and engine fell off. The left wing continued to give lift, and that meant that it lifted up and turned over the fuselage and actually turned it round so it was facing in the opposite direction. An absolutely terrifying ordeal for the 80 passengers and crew on board, but exactly as you say, there was a successful evacuation. Everybody got out all right. 20 people were taken to hospital. One, I believe, remains being treated, but it really does speak to the survivability of aviation incidents like this, as long as people have paid attention to the safety demonstration. Now, I don't think we're going to see a new element introduced of if your aircraft comes to a halt upside down, here's what to do. But crucially, you must pay attention to the safety demo. You must know where the emergency exits are. And there's so much evidence, Kay, that while, of course, you've been on a flight dozens, probably hundreds of times, and it's always the same thing, and lots of people are looking at their phones or chatting or whatever, but there is evidence that if you have been paying attention and you are thinking, okay, well, there's an emergency exit just there and there's one 3 rows back, you are in a much stronger position if you do need to leave an emergency exit. Well, and also, sorry.
No, I was just going to say it because it certainly made me think. I mean, one thing that often happens, I mean, it probably wouldn't apply in this case, but, people getting up and moving about before the seatbelt sign has gone off. And, sometimes you'll hear a member of cabin crew say, sit down, because people think, oh, we're here, I'll just get my bag out early to make I'm away, so you shouldn't be doing that. And the other one that I have to say sometimes annoys me, but it's never going to annoy me again, if you're sitting with a laptop or, a tablet or whatever, and they'll say, put it away. And you say, well, why do I have to put it away? But I guess if that happened, you would have lots of very, very heavy items flying about a cabin that could cause somebody injury. So you utterly see the sense of it.
Oh, very much so. I as you say, I find it slightly annoying to the extent that I was on a delayed flight coming in to Birmingham Airport on Emirates last week, and I was, had a bit of work to do, as I'm sure you will have done too. So I put the laptop in the seat in front of me and then promptly left it on the plane. But fortunately, I was able to recover it after an hour or so. Yes, I learnt my lesson from that. But and in terms of cabin baggage as well, the one a very worrying thing from that incident was the number of people who emerged clutching their cabin baggage. There is a danger that you will impede the escape of everybody else by doing that. There have been various suggestions talked about, including locking cabin overhead bins so that people can't do that. But of course, the fear is that that would actually make things worse because people would be desperately trying to get their possessions out. The best suggestion I've heard is that you just put a big fat fine on anybody who's unfortunate enough to be in an emergency evacuation but comes out with their cabin baggage. As long as you warn people, that might make a difference as well. And one final thing, please wear sensible footwear when you're on a plane. The chance that you'll be involved in an emergency evacuation is very, very small, but if it happens, you want to be in decent footwear so that you can just leave the aircraft quickly. So don't, as soon as you sit down in your seat, kick off your shoes, kick them on till you've taken off.
No, all sensible stuff, a good reminder. And I noticed that we can speak about this later, Simon, that long-haul holiday bookings are now more popular than ever, which will inevitably, or not inevitably, but invariably lead to long flights. So it's good to bear in mind. But we can talk about that later. I hope you've got, I don't know, I like the veggie veggie hot dog. I don't know what have you got in front of you, Simon?
I haven't tried that. I will,
Have you not?
in your honour, go and get a veggie hot dog. Thank you
Veggie
very
hot
much.
dog and the black coffee. Yeah, that's my favourite treat.
Okay, living the dream. That's the breakfast of champions. That explains your broadcasting success, Kay. Right.
Well, yes, it does, sadly, which is probably not a great testament. Simon, thank you very much indeed. Enjoy your little trip to Little Sweden, shall we call it. Simon Calder, our travel expert. Oh, I don't know what department is he going to be in when we speak to him after 11. Kitchens, I hope. 08085 92 95 00 is the number to call to speak to Simon Calder, our travel expert. You can leave a voice note or a WhatsApp message, or you can text him at 80295. The lines are all open now.
Strolling in the park, watching winter turn to spring. Walking in the dark, seeing lovers do their thing. Ooh, that's the time I feel like making love to you. That's the time I feel like making dreams come true. Oh baby, when you talk to me, when you're moaning sweet and low, when you're touching me and my feelings start to show. Ooh, that's the time I feel like making love to you. That's the time I feel like making dreams come true. Oh baby, in a restaurant, holding hands by candlelight, while I'm touching you, wanting you with all my might. Ooh, that's the time I feel like making love to you. That's the time I feel like making dreams come true. Oh baby, strolling in the park, watching winter turn to spring. Walking in the dark, seeing lovers do their thing. Ooh, that's the time I feel like making love to you. That's the time.
It is 10:39. Kay Adams with you till 12 on BBC Radio Scotland. And today marks the start of World Gaelic Week. Events are taking place all over Scotland from now until Sunday, March the 2nd. And here on Mornings, we are going to teach you one Gaelic word or phrase a day. Well, I say we are. I should say broadcaster and singer Joy Dunlop is. Good morning, Joy.
Martin Va, good morning.
Good morning. I was overreaching there. And Joy, you are the director of World Gaelic Week.
I am, yeah. It's an absolute pleasure to be involved. It's just such a fun project. It's really positive.
And have you been steeped in it forever? Did you grow up as a native speaker?
No, I didn't, and that's something that often surprises people. I was lucky that I grew up just outside Oban in Argyll, which is an area that's really, really Highland, and we were surrounded by music, and there were a lot of Gaelic speakers in the area, particularly folk that had come from the islands. But my mum and dad don't speak any Gaelic, so I actually didn't do Gaelic until I went to secondary school, although I had been singing in Gaelic before that. So I think for me, there was definitely the missing piece in the jigsaw feeling. It felt that, we were learning learning how to sing in Gaelic phonetically, and we were learning to play tunes at Gaelic names, and you'd hear it spoken, but you couldn't answer apart from the couple of wee phrases you've been taught. So for me, it definitely made sense when I started to learn as a second language. I did Gaelic and French in school, and it made a lot of sense. And it filled in the gaps and the bits that maybe we were missing normally.
Yeah, but you obviously, fall in love with it because, so much of your life is connected to Gaelic now, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I was lucky. I went up to Solmarostig, the Gaelic College in Skye, and then I actually ended up doing my whole degree there just because I loved it so much. But I think when I went there, it gave me the tools. We did an immersion course, and it gave us the tools to reach fluency in a year. And I think that was really the big step. It just opened up the culture and the heritage. And I'm a singer and I love music, and I'd been singing all these songs for years, but all of a sudden I really got them. And actually, the more I learned, the more that I think just life around me made sense. All of a sudden I could understand the place names better, or the hill names, or the loch names, and even just turns of phrases that we have in English. I would be going, that came from Gaelic. That came from Gaelic.
Yes.
Everybody's sick of me telling people the links that there is. But I think it just made sense for me.
So what's the hope and the ambition of World Gaelic Week? And you should give it its correct name, because I'm going with English, so you should absolutely give it its Gaelic name, Joy.
Yeah, well, we call it Seachgin na Gaelic, which literally means the week of Gaelic, Seachgin na Gaelic, World Gaelic Week. And the idea is that people, wherever they are in the world, can take ownership of the language. And, I really do genuinely believe that Gaelic is for everybody. But I totally get to, because I learned how scary it can be at the start when you don't know the sounds, you don't know how to put together sentences. And I think this is just trying to provide something for everyone. So if you are a fluent speaker and are speaking Gaelic every day, that's great. There's still more that you can do, and particularly with things like our Say a Gaelic Phrase Day that's happening on Thursday. That's a lovely way to show off what you know. But actually, if you've got none, you've never, ever tried even a word before, something like this that we're doing today is perfect, because it's just going, here's one word, here's one phrase, here's one sound. And that's not too scary. It's not too intimidating. It's your first stepping stone. And then maybe it'll be that next time you see a Céilí advertised, you think, I could go to that. Or you hear about a programme that's going to be on BBC Alwapa or Region and Gale, you think, I could have a look at that. And it's just Bickervik, little by little, trying to find something that suits you, because there genuinely is something out there for everyone.
Well, we are building up to our Gaelic word or phrase of the day, so hold on to it, Joy, because we will end with that. And interesting that this is World Gaelic Day. We have with us Gilla-Brige Macmillan. Good morning, Senior Lecturer in Gaelic and Celtic at the University of Glasgow, a native speaker. Good morning to you.
Matima, good morning.
Good morning, good morning. In terms of the popularity of Gaelic, and this is a discussion that we have and have had over the years, where is it sitting at the moment?
Well, I think it's in a good place at the moment in terms of numbers speaking the language. We've seen an increase at the last census. There are challenges, I suppose, for the language in terms of areas where Gaelic was spoken at one time. For example, the Highlands and Islands, especially where Gaelic was the language of everyday communication. That has weakened slightly, but it shows that also over the last 40 years we've had Gaelic medium education throughout many areas of Scotland, and that has had throughput to the university, to colleges and teaching and so on. So we have more people who've gone through Gaelic medium education now going back to teach the language, to speak the language, and to pass on the language. So it's a mixed bag at the moment, but I think there are lots of signs of hope.
We had Kate Forbes speaking, didn't we, at the weekend, and I think she said, we have a duty to protect the language. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, and I think if we don't protect Gaelic in Scotland, it's not going to be protected anywhere else. So I think there is that duty that it's one of the languages of Scotland, so I think it has to be supported and protected here. And one of the important things that can be done to support the language is, of course, through education. And we've got Gaelic medium education throughout many parts of Scotland, not in all local authorities, but also there's the opportunity through eSchool, which is the distance learning high school, for pupils who want to learn Gaelic to learn Gaelic and get certification for that. And then, if they wish, go on to university or college. So there are the old universities like Aberdeen, Edinburgh and Glasgow, and also Solmarostic and the University of Highlands and Islands offering courses. But also if they come to Glasgow, for example, there's the Gaelic residency scheme, so students who are Gaelic speakers, not necessarily doing a Gaelic degree, but if they're Gaelic speakers, they have the opportunity to stay in a flat with other Gaelic speakers and normalise the language. And I think that's the important thing in terms of language development. It's making it a natural, normal thing. So when I was growing up in South Uist, it was my first language, and it just felt natural. It was natural. You didn't think about speaking Gaelic. It was just the language that was spoken in the home, in the community, in the school. And that's what we want to develop for other people who might not necessarily have Gaelic in the home, but to normalise the language.
Are we investing enough money in it? I think the Scottish Government invests roughly £30 million annually in Gaelic and Scots.
I think that it's great that we have that funding, but we also have to think of Gaelic not necessarily as just Gaelic ring-fenced funding, because we have to think about education, how Gaelic education is funded, and how that could come from the General Education Fund. We have Gaelic broadcasting, not necessarily just a Gaelic fund for broadcasting, but how can Gaelic be used in all areas of aspects of life. So Gaelic speakers, whether in all aspects, pay taxation. And so it's that idea of normalising what Gaelic is. So Gaelic can be heritage, it can be tradition, but it can also be modern things. It can be just doing what might be termed non-Gaelic things through the medium of Gaelic. So there are whole aspects of things that you can't really ring-fence what Gaelic is. So perhaps we shouldn't really be ring-fencing what Gaelic funding is. And Gaelic funding should come from all government departments.
Well, we've got certainly a convert with us in Chris Payton. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. And you're originally from, is it Northern Ireland?
From Carrickfergus over in County Antrim.
Oh, right. And you're a Gaelic learner. So what was your interest?
Oh, actually, it started off when I was a student in Bristol and I was doing a media course, and I made the tragic mistake one day of going into a shop and buying a CD by Runrig. And
you were hooked.
I was hooked for the initial part, but that was the initial kind of hook to it. But I actually work as a genealogist today, and I did my family history, and on the back of that realised that my grandfather's family were actually from the Highlands, from Inverness and Highland Perthshire, and they had Gaelic as well. And so that kind of reinforced my sense of wanting to reclaim that language for myself.
And so where did you start then in terms of learning it? I mean, were you based in Carrickfergus at the time, or what sort of resources did you have?
No, it was in Bristol when I first started, and there used to be a wee book called Teach Yourself Gaelic by a gentleman called Boyd Robertson, and I used to meet up with a group in Bristol every week, for a couple of years, and occasionally we'd go down to London to the Highlands and Islands Society and talk to some of the fluent Gaelic speakers down there. And I moved up to Scotland in 1997, and I actually worked at the BBC for a bit, but when I left in 2006, I actually stopped using the language for about 14 years, and it wasn't until the pandemic started I thought, this is ridiculous. I've learned so much in the past that I need to kind of, not let this slip. And so I started again. So Gilla Breach mentioned eSchool. I did the higher and the advanced higher through eSchool. I also did the Duolingo course on it's a free app called Duolingo. It's got Scottish Gaelic on it. I watched Joy's Speak Gaelic programme, and at the moment I'm now at the University of Glasgow doing the Gaelic immersion course, similar to the course that Joy talked about.
Right.
So I'm trying now to push myself through, but I set myself a 5-year plan try and knock this on the head. Let's get the fluency in 5 years from the pandemic, and I'm approaching that. Maybe not quite there yet, but I'm slowly but surely getting there.
I feel I should just back out the room and let you and Joy and Gullabreeze just chat to each other. That would probably be better. Unfortunately, we don't have the time for that. But Joy, we're absolutely making the time for our Gaelic word or phrase of the week, and hopefully by the end of the week we'll all be a little bit more engaged. Do you want to take us through it?
Yeah, I thought I'd choose a nice, easy one. So then you don't feel that anybody that's listening doesn't feel that they can't do it. You'll have seen this one on signs. It's on quite often at the entry to a pub, anywhere that you're welcoming someone. And it's just 3 words, Ciat Míle Fáilte, which means 100,000 welcomes. Ciat Míle Fáilte. Go on, give it a go.
Ciat Míle Fáilte.